Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the CEC 15 October calendar meeting. I am Camille Casaretti, the president of CEC 15. We are coming to you live from PS24 in Sunset Park, and we also have a Zoom broadcast. I would like to ask all of our guests who are here with us this evening to please sign the attendance sheet to your left. And there is food and drinks, bon appetito, and thank you for being here. I will hand the floor over to the interpretation team to just start. Let's start with the Mandarin line, please.
Hello， 嗨，大家好，今天会有国语的翻译，电话号码是347-966-4114，再重复一遍347-966-4114，那个会议号码 ID 编号就是246-524-512，然后再按一个井字，ID 号码是246-524-512，再按一个井字，谢谢 ，Thank you。
I can proceed with the Spanish line information. The following message will be for Spanish, in Spanish. La siguiente información va a ser dada para la línea de español. Para la interpretación en español, por favor, marque al 347-966-4114 e ingrese el número de conferencia 366-830-800, símbolo numeral. De nuevo, para ingresar a la línea de español, por favor, marque al 347-966-4114 e ingrese el número de conferencia 366-830-800, símbolo numeral. Se les pide de forma atenta y muy amable que por favor solo mantengan en silencio sus micrófonos para que así todos puedan escuchar la conferencia sin ningún eco y ruido. De nuevo, la línea para español es 347-966-4114 e ingrese el número de conferencia 366-830-800, símbolo numeral. Muchísimas gracias. Thank you.
Good evening. The following announcement will be in Bangla for the Bengali audience here in the Zoom room. শুভ সন্ধ্যা, আমি বাংলা দুভাষী বলছি। এই মিটিংটি বাংলায় শোনার জন্য অনুগ্রহ করে কল করুন 347-966-4114 এবং এরপরে আইডি প্রেস করুন 745-970-110 এবং একটি পাউন্ড কি। আমি আবারও নাম্বারটি বলে দিচ্ছি। বাংলায় কথোপকথনটি শোনার জন্য 347-966-4114 এবং এরপরে আইডি প্রেস করুন 745-970-110 এবং একটি পাউন্ড কি। আপনি যদি এই জুম কনফারেন্স রুমে থেকে বাংলায় আলাপচারিতা শুনতে চান, তবে আপনার কম্পিউটারের এবং ফোনের মিউট বাটনে চাপ দিয়ে ভলিউমটি মিউট করে রাখুন এবং আপনার ফোন থেকে সরাসরি বাংলা কনফারেন্স লাইনে ডায়াল করুন এবং যেই নাম্বারটিতে আপনাকে ডায়াল করতে হবে সেই নাম্বারটি আমি আবারও বলে দিচ্ছি 347-966-4114 এবং এরপরে আইডি চাপুন 745-970-110 এবং একটি পাউন্ড কি। সবাইকে অনেক অনেক ধন্যবাদ। The Bangla announcement is completed.
Thank you so much. I would like to call this meeting to order at 6:47 p.m. I will hand the floor over to Nancy Randall, who will call the roll.
Camille Casaretti.
Present.
Antonio Faro has an excused absence. Gail Shelspeed. Vincent Liu.
Present.
Nana Poku Agiekun.
Present.
Alfred De Angelis.
Was here, he ran out for a second.
Joseph Alexander, Yvonne Banda, Nancy Brandon here, Vanessa Gonzalez Uyoka. Nakia Muhasa Brown has an excused absence.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. Next on our agenda is a vote on the minutes. We have two different minutes, one from September 13th, our business meeting, and another from September 20th, our calendar meeting. Do I have a motion to adopt September 13th minutes?
Motion adopted for 13th.
Nancy Randall made a motion to
Second.
adopt, and Vanessa is seconding it. And then do I have a motion to adopt the minutes of September 20th?
And
I have some objection to the.
Oh, okay, go ahead.
Yeah,
Which one? The 13th,
September 20th.
20th?
Yeah,
Okay.
this one was the, I think we're supposed to provide interpretation services for the meeting. We didn't. So I would like that to be included in the minute.
Okay, I'm sorry. We didn't have interpretation for the calendar meeting?
But that one we didn't.
I think that we did, Vincent. Shanice, we have interpretation for the calendar meeting in September? Oh, sorry. For the September calendar meeting at PS 58, did we have interpretation?
I remember there was one meeting where they bailed on us.
Okay, so,
Yeah, I don't recall having interpretation.
so where is that, Vincent? Where does it say?
Oh, right.
About the
Yvonne is saying because they changed the mandate from in-person from
Where does it say that?
to being in person.
I guess at the end. Is that one? Will be referred to?
No. So
I'm
we're
sorry.
supposed to have a service for the whole meeting. Yeah. For the-
Oh, so you just want to have a note saying,
We
There was
request
no-
interpretation was not available due to a change in, location.
in the mandate. No, we requested it, but they weren't able to provide it because there was a change in, there was this, the open meetings law was not, governor did not extend the open meetings law yet after September 14th, I believe was the date. And so suddenly we were thrown to have to figure things out very quickly. And we only had 1 week to be able to figure out interpretation for the meeting. We requested it, however, we were not given interpretation for that meeting. Therefore, our attempt was made to have interpretation. Unfortunately, it was not able to be provided. Right, because the rule is 2 weeks in advance. So unfortunately, due to the governor, we didn't have interpretation at that meeting.
Okay, so, is this okay? Please note that due to a change in the open meetings law, interpretation was not able to be provided. Doesn't really make a lot of sense.
No, that makes sense.
Makes sense. Is that okay?
There was,
Yeah, I think that's fine. As long as we mentioned that, because we advertised it, but we didn't provide it. So it makes sense that we have that into it. And my second objection was the, when we have the, when we have the voting for the resolutions, we had to restrict current comment to 5. However, I think we will restrict the current comments for other candidates. I think that it is noted in the minutes before voting, we will restrict the comments.
Yeah, okay. Vincent here, take this.
Do we have another
That's-
speaker?
We don't. Can I turn this?
I guess I would just speak louder. Better? All right. So, that's why I want.
This one I get excited from.
It's not, oh, cool.
Okay, so yeah, I was referring to the first one was the interpretation service. So I'm just going to reiterate that we cannot provide interpretation services. It's like we did advertise it. So I want to add it to the minutes. And second one was the when we vote on the resolutions, we had to restrict parents' comments to only 5. I don't think in other agenda, we have to restrict our parents' comments. I think that's fair to know that that's what happened before the vote on resolutions. These are the 2 questions I have on
I think that what happened was that we had a lot of people who wanted to make comments, and then there was not a lot of time on the agenda to hear as many comments as we had, just something that's happened in the past. And we did receive a lot of comments by email, but I think the amount of time, I don't know necessarily that that is something that we need to note in the minutes. Like, I think if you want to say anything at all, we could say, I don't know. So what do you think? Because you're the parliamentarian, so.
As a parliamentarian, I can say that almost every public comment period that's ever come up where more than several people want to talk, I have with that majority. And I explained that in the introduction. We have a printed introduction that I read beginning of every meeting. So it's sort of a distortion of what we know to be true of every one of our meetings we've ever held, that we cut parent and even CEC member comments short because we have to be out of the building by 9 o'clock. So it's something we'll always have to do. I disagree with that being noted because that would be a distortion of reality.
Does anybody else have any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I just reiterate that there's always a time limit on the agenda. Like every single item on every single agenda has. Sorry.
This is crazy.
Every single item on every single agenda that we have has a time amount, that CEC members very carefully plan how much time we're going to have for each item in a planning meeting that they devote their extra time to come up with the agenda before every meeting that we're all invited to.
So I think that was a fair argument about, obviously we want to hear from as many families as we can. There are a number of different ways that people can send in comments, and we hope that they will in the future. But so in this moment, Vincent, we're not gonna add that to the minutes, okay? Okay, so motion to adopt 920 with the modification for the interpretation.
I second.
Okay, Vanessa made a motion and Nancy seconded, and we don't have to vote on the minutes per Steve. So Those minutes will be posted on the website, and I will hand the floor back over to Nancy to do introductions.
I just take care.
So typically vote on the minute.
Steve said we don't have to vote.
We don't have to vote on the minute.
Hi, thank you all for coming to the District 15 Community Education Council meeting tonight. We appreciate your time and we are glad you could join us. For those of you who are new to CEC meetings, there are 32 CECs throughout the city plus 4 citywide councils. Each CEC represents a community school district and each is made up of 11 volunteer members, 9 of whom are elected by parents in the district. The remaining members are appointed by the Brooklyn Borough President, and we have 1 high school student member. CEC 15 is a state mandated public body responsible for ensuring that public school parents and the public have input in educational decisions that are made at the school district level. Our council reviews education policies and advocates for high quality education that benefit all of our District 15 public, elementary, and middle school students. CEC 15 serves 35 elementary and middle schools and 1 high school under the oversight of our superintendent. CEC members serve in an advisory role on education matters to the district superintendent, the chancellor of the Department of Education, and to state and city elected officials. We approve district school zoning lines submitted by the Department of Education. We evaluate our district superintendent. We review the district's educational programs, and we support school leadership teams. We also submit recommendations for the School Construction Authority's annual capital plan. And as of recent amendments to the law, CECs advise in the selection of parent coordinators. We actively seek input and feedback from the public and encourage you to visit our website, cecb15.org. Take a look at our Facebook page, connect with us on Twitter, and write to us about any issues you may want to address or learn about. Each school has a CEC liaison. All of our names and contact info are available on our website. Please remember to sign the attendance sheet if you are in person. The attendance sheet is on the table over there. And if you are online, it's been dropped in the chat, I believe.
Thank you, Nancy. I just want to check in with our Zoom line and interpretation lines. I'm getting some comments that it's hard to hear. For the interpretation team, are you able to hear us well? Feel free to unmute and just say yes or no.
I can hear you, ma'am. This is Bengali interpreter.
Oh, we don't have the volume on.
Yeah,
Okay.
it's Mandarin. Yeah, no problem.
Spanish for now, yes, is good.
Sure.
It only cuts off,
Thank
for
you.
example, and it hears a little bit kind of cutting off when, for
Try
example,
to-
the speakers who have face masks. That's the only issue that we have. For example, I believe it's Mr. Vincent that you mentioned earlier when he was speaking. It was really hard to hear him and understand what he was saying. I think it's because of the face masks, though.
I have an issue understanding and hearing. I think that's because of the face mask. That's the only problem there.
Okay, so is this any better? Yes, these guys are happy. Okay, I can hear myself. Okay. So again, I just want to apologize. I'm seeing it's 7 o'clock. We're way behind schedule, so just going to try to really push forward as quickly as possible. So I want to review the public comment protocol. We had a number of complaints regarding inappropriate behavior by some of our guests and even by a council member at our fall CEC meeting. So we are not going to allow this to continue. Any offensive or racist remarks, whether made in the Zoom chat or in person, will not be tolerated. People using fake names and pretending to be D15 parents are not going to be allowed to speak. Okay, if you don't want to share your name, but we are not going to condone lying or misrepresentation, harmful, disruptive behavior as exhibited at our calendar meeting will be reported immediately to the DOE and if necessary to police. Our meetings have always been a space where people could speak freely without being attacked or violated. People who come into this space under false pretenses are here to do harm. People who yell and try to intimidate are also causing harm. If you're in this space, these are the rules that we expect you to abide by. I am now going to hand the floor over to Yvonne, who is taking over as parliamentarian this evening, and he will go through the public comment period. Rules.
Good evening. The state of emergency for COVID-19 expired on September 12, 2022. Governor Kathy Hochul did not extend Executive Order 1129, which allowed virtual access to public meetings under the New York State's Open Meetings Law. As a result, citywide and community educational councils will no longer be able to hold fully remote meetings, but might choose to hold hybrid meetings provided certain requirements are satisfied. Tonight's meeting is taking place in person, but will include a public comment period. We will take both remote and in-person comments to gather additional feedback from our families and the school community members. You might leave your camera on, or for your own privacy, if you prefer, you might use audio only during the comment period and throughout the meeting. Rules of engagement. When you comment, please respect the privacy of others. Please do not include names of children or staff. Guests who make inappropriate comments will be removed from the meeting. During the public comment period, those attending virtually might raise their hand to comment or indicate in the chat that they would like to speak. Those called will be unmuted. If you are attending in person, you must sign the guest attendance sheet and indicate whether you would like to comment. The speakers will be called on one at a time and will be allowed 1 minute each for comment. We will hear as many speakers as the time allows. It is possible that not every comment question will be given time. So the best way to get to your questions answered is always to write to the CEC at the following email address: cec15@schools.nyc.gov. Thank you, and we have our president's report.
Thank you so much, Yvonne. So again, good evening, everyone, and thank you for joining us at Guest 24. It is so great to be here back in person in Sunset Park again. I noticed that our amazing principal, Maria Diaz, just stepped out. I was going to introduce her, but we will come back to her later. I have known Maria for 8 years now. She is an extraordinary, dedicated leader, and we are so lucky to have her on the District 15 team. I wanted to talk a little bit about the Sunset Park Participatory Action Research Team, and I see a few of the members are here with us tonight. Thank you so much. These community members are collecting and understanding the perspective of parents, students, and neighbors in the Sunset Park area on issues such as education, school safety, academics, and other related areas. This research and understanding of the schools in the area is being conducted in relation to the new public school buildings that are opening in the coming years. They are sharing with the superintendent and the Department of Education and detailing proposal for developing plans for the new building's use and ongoing parent leadership. Our language, special education, inclusive middle school opportunities. There are discussing implications of rezoning elementary schools in Sunset Park, asking for a meeting space available to community members and community groups with safety prioritized, and also seeking adult education and programming for community members. We have a new building coming online in the fall of 2023, which will become the upper school for PS 896. And we learned last night at the 896 school leadership team meeting that the Office of District Planning has heard the requests of the park team and are considering adding a D79 component to the new building that would provide adult education at night and on the weekends. An educational impact statement will be presented to the community in the coming weeks with more details, and the DOE Board of Education, otherwise known as the Panel for Education Policy, will vote on this new proposal on December 19th. All members of the District 15 and general public are invited to provide feedback on the EIS prior to the PEP vote. So please look out for more information coming soon and save the date for the December 19th PEP meeting. PS 516 is also going to have a new building opening in the fall of 2023, and we'll be getting more information on that soon as well. There's a lot of energy around the new schools that are coming online, but I want to make sure that our responsibilities as school liaisons to do our, that we're doing our school visits. Each CEC member should be meeting with their school's principal and doing a building walkthrough. At the beginning of each new year, CEC 15 submits a list of building requests to the school construction authority for possible additions to be added to the SCA capital plan. The deadline is typically the first week of January. So council members, if you have not met yet with your liaison schools principals, please plan to do that in the coming 2 weeks. We will be reviewing our draft list at the November 29th calendar meeting and voting on the top 5 priorities at the December 13th meeting. Any member of school communities can send in a request, and all ideas will be vetted by the Division of School Facilities and the School Construction Authority. So please write to your school CEC liaison with your suggestions. I have a quick update on school-wide enrichment. Antonia and I, and I want to mention that Antonia actually is in the Zoom, even though she was not able to come in person. She is doing her secretarial duties online. Thank you. So Antonia and I have been collaborating with Superintendent Alvarez and the B15 team and discussing project-based learning models. We are excited about this work and the prospect of school-wide enrichment models expanding throughout District 15. Superintendent Alvarez is going to be working with the principals and assistant principals to support this work and start to implement project-based learning in each of the chosen schools. And I'm good, we'll talk about that in a little while. The work created by students throughout the year will be displayed at a district fair in the spring. This is really exciting because we have not been able to have any district-wide events since the pandemic. This way of learning is more than just like an art class. It's a way of finding the interests of students and keeping them highly motivated and engaged as they're learning about different subjects, and can be accomplished across the grade. I have information to share about the WXY B15 diversity plan report. Nancy and I met with Superintendent Alvarez and some of the D15 team and the WXY members last week to talk about what the coming months of community engagement and feedback will look like. Various school community members will be participating and giving feedback on how the implementation of the middle school plan has been working over these last few years. And the UXY will be providing periodic summaries at the D15 town halls. Our next meeting is on Friday, October 28th, which is this Friday, and we will report back to let you know how that's going. We also had shared a middle school and high school admissions survey. So CEC 15 designed the survey to collect feedback on parents' experience with the middle and high school admissions process and take feedback on possible changes. So we received a significant amount of feedback and are hoping to be able to create a report with the information that was gathered so that we could share it with the community. Superintendent Alvarez is using this feedback in addition to other feedback that he received to make a decision about what this year's middle school admissions process will look like for District 15. The survey is still open if you'd like to submit comments. Antonia, if you have access to the survey link, please drop it in the chat. Okay, just another couple of things. The CCEC elections are coming up soon for the new council term, which runs from June 2023 through June 2025. And everyone here on this council, our terms end on June 30th. So if you would like to run for CEC 15 or any of the citywide councils, please look out for that application. The period opens in January. And I just want to also add that there was a change in the state education law, and there will be a new seat on the council, every district council, for a parent of a child in a D75 program. I know that we have a lot of active parents in District 15 that have children in the D75 program. And so I would say to you, please do run for the seat. We're happy to have representation. There is also an opportunity for parent leadership on the New York City Board of Education. 5 new seats have been created for parents from each borough. The PEP parent member elections will be starting soon. All of these roles are volunteer positions and require a pretty significant amount of time to appropriately represent the communities. The Brooklyn PEP member should have a strong understanding of each district's challenges and strengths. So looking forward to seeing many applicants, and please do run if you're interested. We're going to be hosting the Chancellor's Town Hall tomorrow night at MS 88. It's not too late to register or to submit questions. The sign up is at learnboe.org/CEC/. And I'll ask somebody if they could please drop that in the chat. I see that. Maria Diaz. Here is going to the room. So I'll just hand the floor over to you. And if you want to say a little bit about PS 24, we're so happy to have you. And thank you so much for your hospitality. You want to come here? Or, sure.
Welcome CEC 15, Superintendent Alvarez, and our district staff. Also our families and friends that have joined us here tonight. We are a community school, dual language school. We have an ASD Horizon program, which we absolutely love. We just have got a business talented program this year in the 3rd grade. There's children as well. And what I mean by being a community school is we provide social workers, and we have a dental suite, and we have a nurse, and we have a community room which we are continuously expanding. We are here for to meet the needs of our families and to support them in every way possible. We are continuing to expand our community room, and along with having academic-based workshops for our families, we have also invited we partner with various organizations, local organizations, and host workshops for families where we introduce them to lawyers and soup kitchens and housing and fire safety and safety in the home. Also, we also partner with our council members' office. And the reason why we do this is because we want to keep our families informed, but we also want to make sure that they know what are the resources that are available to them in the community. It is important that the voices of our community is heard throughout, and we want our families to be able to make informed decisions. Recently, we received approximately 21 migrant families, and I want to thank our district office, Superintendent Alvarez, local schools that have helped support us in supporting them. Currently, we have the entire room full of clothing. It's good for the weather that we have been providing to our families, and we have been putting them in touch with various organizations to help them in overcoming all the challenges that we have had, including getting them in contact with psychologists and counselors and social workers, because as many of you can imagine, our families have been through a lot. I do want to thank again our district office for being so supportive, CEC 15 for always checking in and ensuring that we have the resources that we are supposed to have. And to all of you here, I see a few advocates that are part of our school community for being the voice of our families. No matter whether we agree or disagree, it's important to sometimes have really difficult conversations. That is the only way that change occurs. But these conversations need to take place in a respectful manner, where we are listening to each other and coming up with resolutions that are good for our children, are always in service of the children. Again, thank you for being here. This is your home. If you know of anyone in the community that needs any type of support, please send them to us. We welcome everyone with open arms. Thank you.
Principal Diaz, we are so grateful to you and to have you as part of the 15 team. So thank you so much. Such a special person. Okay, so we are going to move on to the D15 Superintendent's report. Superintendent Rafael Alvarez is here with us. Welcome. Just want to make sure that everything's okay with the interpretation lines before I hand the floor over. Give me a thumbs up, you guys. Nobody's putting a thumbs up. Okay, okay, I see a thumbs up. All right, so Superintendent Alvarez, take it away.
Thank you, Madam President, CEC members. All right, so it's a little blurry for me, but I'll try. I'll take my last off. We're gonna have a little bit of chat about celebrations, a little bit about the middle school MH process, district-wide data, just to connect to that, a little bit about the diversity plan and what we're doing with WXY in terms of the timeline, tool-wide enrichment model and project-based learning, and then go into questions and answers. So next slide. First, I want to start off to congratulate all the teachers that received tenure. We had a tenure celebration last week. And it was exciting. Several teachers received certificates with the UFT, and we worked in collaboration to get those awards. We look to expand this work. Thank you, Principal Diaz, for hosting that with Nancy Armando, our district rep. Next slide. On Saturday, I had the opportunity to work in partnership with District 13 in a school fair. I wanted to thank PX 38, MS 88, 261, 295, and Orwell High School of International Studies for participating in that fair in collaboration with City Council member Lincoln Retzler for District 33. showing the great work at their schools. This is an opportunity for them to showcase their schools and get people involved in thinking about attending their schools, but also it gave an opportunity for entire hospitals around the process and supporting them on what to do with the process. So I want to thank Lincoln Retzler and that work. At the same time, on the next slide, we had our fun run, which was hosted by City Council member Shahana Hanif of 38th District with PS 107, where they did a 5K walk run within the community, and it was another great experience. We tried to divide ourselves on a Saturday throughout the day. Next slide. Some other shout outs, PS 94 celebrating their Hispanic Heritage Month performance. PS 10 and PS 280, where they had a monster bash. It's an amazing event that they had on Saturday. PS 230 had a huge community event. They called it the Hoedown, where students got to compete against each other, creating creative ways of using potatoes. It's actually interesting. I saw that yesterday when I heard PBO. It's like PS 261 about a harvest festival. And 896 celebrating Hispanic heritage that was led by their equity team and their parent volunteers. And then a special thank you to all the assistant principals for attending our first in-person AP conference, where there was a lot of rich learning, supported the District 15 team, and the minor collective was a part of that work in our district. Sorry that the pictures are blurry, but those online will be able to have a fair view. Next slide. Just so that we know, Diwali will be honored as an official holiday in New York City Public Schools starting in the fall of 2023. It's a holiday known for the Festival of Lights and celebrated primarily in South Asia and the Caribbean. It's going to be an official school holiday for the next school year calendar to come, because that hasn't been fully completed. Next slide. Middle school admissions and my thought process around how I decided my decision, which will be made public tomorrow. Wednesday, all decisions for across the city will be made public tomorrow. I have shared with CEC president, and will share with CEC members at the end of this. This will not be shared publicly until tomorrow. But I want you to know that I took into consideration the 227 CEC survey responses that have been received. I've also looked at the, been going to middle school admissions town halls, my middle school admissions town hall, which had over 270 people in attendance. In addition to that, I've been going to multiple fifth grade middle school admissions meetings. Interesting enough, I just ended up hearing one a few minutes ago from PS 24. I've been to PS 1s and several other schools across the district. I just notate that because two school leaders are in here now. I've had discussions with all the elected officials within our district and had conversations of where their views were and what was going on with that. I reviewed a lot of district-wide data over the past couple of years in terms of patterns and trends, in terms of what I've seen. I've also been receiving several emails that decided not to go through the survey format that were sent directly to me, vetted phone calls, and my team members have also vetted phone calls from families sharing their experiences and their perspectives on this particular topic. I've had conversations with principals, assistant principals, teachers, and school staff around the middle school process and their views from all perspectives as to what we were seeing. And then I've also committed to continuous reflection and assessment, which what I'm saying here is that just because a decision is made about this school year doesn't necessarily mean that that's always going to be the decision made further down the line. And to connect to that, we're talking about how the diversity plan look and the work that WXY is doing to assess and evaluate. One of the best comments that I heard at the town hall was around the diversity plan isn't perfect, but it's moving towards the right direction. And so while it's not perfect, it's our opportunity this school year to have that evaluation and assessment done, so that we can then think about what changes we need to make to address the gaps that are faced in the diversity plan, right? Because nothing is ever going to be absolute one side or the other perfect. And so what do we do in using this information to make decisions that are going to impact our district in the near future or in the future as it is? And so I want you to understand that I took all of this into consideration, the different voices, the many perspectives on this. And I have to tell you that even the perspectives on either side of the decision that I've made have been helpful in informing me on some of the decisions I'll make later. So perhaps somebody doesn't hear what they want to hear tomorrow. Please note that even though you may not have heard what you wanted to hear tomorrow, that I've taken what you said into consideration about how I implement other things that can impact the things that you brought to the table. Because I do listen to all voices, and I think it's important that we find ways to compromise when we're at an impasse around things. That's what we teach our children, how to figure out in conflict resolution. So that's what I'm thinking about here for us as adults, as we think about the impact and implications it's gonna have for our children district-wide. Next slide. Diversity plan. So WXY, this is the actual diversity plan evaluation and assessment piece that was already decided on back in 2018 in terms of the diversity plan for 4 years. And this column, chart on the right is what we decided that the evaluation assessment is going to look like. As I shared with you in the town hall, on the bottom, you're seeing the timeline. So interviews and small group meetings, that's gonna happen between now and October and in November. It's been a collaboration with CEC because they do represent the parent constituency. And so we have them helping us figure out what questions WXY is going to ask. No one of us is going to select who is going to be interviewed. WXY is going to do that work with all of our schools. We just provided them support and input on those particular questions that are going to be asked. This is the expected timeline. So we're expecting and hoping that by April, or at the very latest, the May CEC meeting, you'll be hearing the results of the evaluation and assessment and the recommendations that are set forth by WXY in their independent third-party evaluation and assessment of the diversity plan. And then we can move on from there. Next slide. I just wanted to give you some preliminary information that I'm able to show. If you look at the column on the left, that's last year's final offers, the 2022, which is the year 4 of the diversity plan. Keep in mind, we did have a pandemic and several years of interruption. However, 8 of the 11 schools in my district, because obviously there's 2 other schools that are represented here that don't belong to me as a superintendent, but are part of 15. 8 of the 11 schools, we accomplished that threshold of approximately 50 to 52%, up to 70-something%, with free and reduced lunch, English language learners, students in temporary housing. And just as a show, if you look at the bottom chart, you have 18 in year 22, all the way on the bottom to the left, 18 is on the bottom, 22 is on the top. If you look at the number 1 choice on the other side where it says percent of matches the choices, I like to look at that number better. In 2018, 82% of students were matched to their first to third choice. In 2022, 84% were matched to first to third choice. In choices 1 through 5, 92% in 2018, 91% in 22. For their first top 10 choices, 94% in 2018, 97% in 2022. Which says most students aren't getting the choices in schools in which they selected that they placed on their application, which wasn't the case many years ago before. So we just want to show and highlight that schools are, not only are we integrating our schools and making them more diverse, we're also holding high expectations for all of our schools across the district so that they're all providing rigorous instruction at all levels for our students. And we've been able to integrate 8 of 11 our schools with the threshold that we set forth in the diversity plan as of now. Again, not perfect, right? Because otherwise we would have had 11 out of 11, right? So far we have 8 out of 11. What I can share is that coming in as a new superintendent in this district, from July to September, I had several parents this summer wanting their kids changed from multiple reasons of schools. And in negotiation and conversations with the parents, the schools that have open seats like 88, 676 at our regular school, and some other schools that were available, parents have decided to take on those seats and have been actually happy with the decisions that were made, but they didn't know about those schools prior. So we're gonna do a better job with our middle schools and not only doing tours that are, district-wide, but also individualized tours for parents to actually get an individualized experience around visiting those particular middle schools. And I just wanted to highlight some of that data, which you'll have access to. If we go to the next slide. This mention about enrollment in our district, and I just want you to note that the numbers are very raw as it relates to the 22-23 school year. These numbers were pulled as of today at 3 p.m. Tomorrow, the numbers can change because enrollment is an open process, and as we get closer to the October 31st, it's an auditing stage. But I just wanted you to see that in 2021 to 2022, for example, in sixth grade, we had 1,799 students. And this year, as of today at 3 p.m., we have 1,794 in sixth grade currently. So that's a difference of 5 students. I want you to understand that citywide, there's a reduction of enrollment for students. But there are multiple reasons behind that. Some of it has to do with inflation. Some of it has to do with remote learning. Some of it has to do with cost of living. Some of it has to do with jobs. Some of it has to do with family things because of the pandemic, having to take care of other relatives. There are multiple reasons. I cannot pinpoint any one particular reason because the DOE does not do an exit interview as to what's the reason why people are leaving. So I cannot speculate as to the reasons behind decline in enrollment. What I can say is that our decline is very slow and steady. It's not comparative to the same thing as citywide. And I want to be clear on that because if you look at Brooklyn North, which are all the districts that are represented in all of Brooklyn North, you look at the numbers and the numbers jump a little bit higher. And so I just wanted to be clear that these decisions about enrollment are not necessarily that they're going down, it's just where are they going down and why, and what historic reasons in the past 4 years have caused the decline citywide. I just wanted to point that out. Next slide. I wanted to bring this up because this is important and near to my heart. We have a large number of L's. We have nearly 4,000 L's in our district, which is one of the largest in Brooklyn North, actually the largest in Brooklyn North. District 20 falls in Brooklyn South, so I just wanted to give that caveat. More L students are making progress in our middle schools than ever before. 9 out of the 11 schools have shown growth in this metrics that measures proficiency growth on the NICES lab, which means they're becoming more English proficient. District-wide L progress has moved 11% in our middle schools. I attribute that to the ability of students to be able to have language acquisition, which is speaking and listening amongst peers who are speaking the same language because they adapt to students easier than they do to the adults. And I attribute that growth to the effects of the middle school admissions that we have had because of the fact that students are now being more integrated and have diverse experiences. Can I prove that? Probably not 100% because as I stated before, these are just the facts that we have. And so the fact here is L's have been making progress. Next slide. I want to talk a little bit about school-wide enrichment model and project-based learning. CEC has brought this up on several occasions and I want to address it myself. We are working toward the school-wide enrichment model because many schools are already engaged in school-wide enrichment. I'm pushing project-based learning as well because that's another form of enrichment that is rigorous and it takes students into consideration around how they learn best through projects and real-world experiences. I'm not going to go into the full details of this particular slide, but I wanted you to have access to it. If we can go to the next slide. Why do we need more school-wide enrichment models? Human brain tells us we have to. Again, I'm not going to go through each and every single one of these. I just want you to have access to it so that you have reference points to research. Whenever I share anything, I always want to make sure that what I share with you is research-based and aligned to what studies across the country have said about this particular work. So in speaking to that, I wanted to talk to you about the next slide, which is what we've been doing. We've met with our CEC and we've met with the Division of Teaching and Learning to solidify a plan of implementation. It's not we're going to talk about it, it's we're going to engage in doing it. And how are we doing that? We recently had an assistant principals conference and assistant principals have been already informed that we're going to be working on developing units of studies across the grade to expand project-based learning in each of their schools. How are we going to do that? On a month-to-month basis, and we've already been confirmed that this is starting on November 15th, AP conference. Professional development will support assistant principals and teachers to lead project-based learning practices in their schools. Every single school in this district is going to be expected and required to participate in this. There's going to be a coordination of intervisitations across the district, as well as in partnership with District 13 to share best practices. And the reason behind that is District 13 has already been working in project-based learning. And so Deputy Superintendent Lanzalato and Deputy Dunn from District 13 are already coordinating for a January and March principals conference where there's going to be intervisitations around looking at these best practices of work so that we can start bringing them into each other's schools, because principals and APs learn best when they see each other's practices in place at individual schools. The hope is then that towards the end of the year, we're going to be able to share students' projects in our community at an end of the year district-wide fair, so that you can see how they've been engaging in project-based learning at each individual school that will be highlighted and showcased at a fair where parents can come and participate and see how their children are learning. This is year one, so we're thinking 1 to 2 units. Year two, we'll now have a bank of resources to share across schools, but then schools will be tasked on doing another 2 units, maybe in another subject area. So that over the next 3 to 5 years, which is the plan of implementation, all schools will be engaged in full project-based learning and school-wide enrichment models, so that we're addressing rigor in all of our schools and not just some of our schools, that we're accelerating all students in all of our schools at their potential, as opposed to some students in some of our schools. Next slide. As we continue to do that, I want you to keep in mind that District 15 has a lot of accelerated course opportunities for students and continues to develop exponentially. Now, you're only seeing the 2020, 2021, because that's the only public data that's available. We will be sharing the 21-22 school year, which is expected to have even more accelerated classes. And we're working with schools that are campus sites to create even more classes. What does that mean? Many of these students are taking life science. Many of them are taking earth science, algebra classes, ELA regions, social studies, US history regions, so that when they're going into high school, they're already going in with high school credits and one less state exam that they have to take in order to complete graduation high school requirements. And so if you look at the numbers, we're jumping up, and offering more students these AP classes so that they're more competitive when they go into high school. Next slide. I just wanted to share a little bit about attendance across our district. This is Brooklyn at 80 as of October 20th. Brooklyn as a borough was at 89.4%. And the year to date was 90%. Citywide is 89.5%. At the time, year to date was 90.2%. 15 was at 90 on October 20th, and we were at 90.8. Brooklyn North was at 90, and overall attendance is at 88. Our district, so now when I said 15, that included high schools, that included all the superintendents that represent Brooklyn District 15. Now I'm telling you that the schools that I represent as a superintendent of the community schools that I'm in charge of, which includes the 2 high schools, as well as the 36 other schools and the early childhood extensions. And we, as of October 20th, were at 92.7, and the year to date was 92.7. And we're around that number today. I looked at that number today, and we are still at 92.7. Just so that you have an idea, no shows. That means children who haven't been recognized as having been to school since the first day of school. We started with 150 2 weeks ago. And on October 13th, we dropped that down to 66. We're now, as of October 20th, down to 39 students district-wide that we haven't identified. Some of it has to do with we can't put something into the system until we can really get an actual address. But just today, every school principal who has a no-show has been reminded, I want those no-shows to 0, because that lets us know where our kids are. Next slide. Just as a reminder, we have our parent workshop on special education in the IEP process. It is in 3 languages. I believe this time we have Mandarin, Chinese Mandarin, Spanish, and Arabic. And that is going to be on Wednesday from 10 to 11 on Zoom. That's going to be with Alan Biebergow, who's our AC, Administrator of Special Education. It's going to go through the processes for these particular families. This one's Zoom now. Over time, we're going to have them in different languages. Just so that you know, historically, District 15's office has been at 131 Livingston. It's going to continue to be at 131 Livingston because I have a large team, but I'm now placing a hub office at MS 51, and I'll be placing a hub office at either 958 or 896, where my team itself can be dispersed across the district to provide support to families. Go all the way to 131. So for example, Brenda Diaz might be in Sunset Park on a day so that she could support families in that particular area. Christine Farrell might be at MS 51 so she could support families in that particular area so that we have access for our community to get to us if travel becomes a hardship. Also for language barriers and things like that, where it's hard to get translation, to be able to have people within the community that can actually speak the language. And we have other members of our team that are going to be rotating in those spaces to provide support across the district, because that's what we heard from lots of our community so far in visiting. Next slide. The next town hall is November 16th, 6:30 to 8 o'clock. Again, it's going to be a virtual town hall. Right now, this is where the link is and everything else, but you might be receiving an updated one because topics come up, and as topics get hot, we will add them on our hot topics of discussion for the following months so that we keep up to date with what the requests are of the community and not just necessarily create something for the year without taking into consideration what the community is concerned about. And I think that's it. If you want to check the next slide. Yeah, those questions and answers there. Anything from the council?
Thank you so much. We're going to have Yvonne moderate. Okay, sure.
I have 10 minutes.
Public comment first? Oh, yeah. Yeah, let's have 10 minutes for public comment, and we're going to ask on the interpretation line first, okay?
Thank you, Superintendent, for your report. Please, the interpretation, we're going to have a public comment for 10 minutes. Please, the digital lines, check if you have questions.
There's no one in the Spanish line.
On the Spanish line?
We have
No
the
question.
director of the American Debate League.
He
would like to-
announced.
There are no questions in the Bangalore line either.
No question on the line?
No question in Mandarin line either. Thank you.
It seems like we don't have any questions from the digital lines.
Okay, so say like if anybody on the Zoom.
On the Zoom line, do we have any questions?
This person, Richard Connolly, has a comment on the Zoom. Richard Connolly.
Yes, how are you doing today?
Connolly is, oh, are you there? Okay, go ahead.
Yeah, I'm under another name. I apologize. As far as I did have a comment. And I just wanted to say hello, everyone. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak. I think this is my first time at CEC 15. I think just 15 and 13, the only two I haven't been to. So I'm happy. I'm going to go to 13 next month. We've gone to all the CECs. Now, just want to let you know quickly, the American Debate League, our mission is to help children become better thinkers, speakers, and leaders. And our mission and our core belief is that debate changes lives. So we work with districts throughout New York City. We're in every borough in Long Island and Westchester. And we would love to work with actually more of your schools. We actually work with PS 94 and PS 91. PS 131. And last year, PS 94 actually went to
I'm not sure if the people on the Zoom can hear you, but we lost
Oh,
from
I
here.
apologize. You haven't heard me this whole time?
Oh, we heard some of what you were saying, and then we lost you for a second.
Okay, I'll be really quick. Okay, so we work with schools throughout New York City. We work with elementary, middles, and high school to help them start debate teams. We were happy to announce that last year and this year we've worked with PS 94 as well as PS 131. And what we did was they competed in our tournaments. PS 94 even qualified for our city championships, and they actually made it almost to the advanced rounds. So I want to thank you. And what we're doing is we work with school districts throughout the city, and we have schools in every borough. We would love to work with more district 15 schools. And that's why I'm reaching out to you. And in elementary and middle, we work with middle schools. We even prep some of the top debate teams in the city to compete at Harvard University. We've had them compete last year, and we're looking forward to going back in person this year. So I'm going to reach out to the CEC as well as superintendent. I believe he's here. So we'd love to set an appointment to see about working with District 15 and starting a debate team in different schools throughout your district. And lastly, what that does is if we have 3 or 4, then what happens is we'd love to do a District 15 debate. We also have borough and city championships, which we'd love to be a part of. I can put my information in the chat. I'm Richard Connolly, American Debate League. And like I said, you might not have heard that. The only 2 districts we haven't visited, CECs, are 13 and you, and I could take you off. 13 is the only CEC we haven't visited. So thank you for the opportunity. I'm open if there's any questions. If not, I'll put my information in the chat. Thank you. Does anyone have any questions?
No.
All right, thank you. I'll put my information in the chat. And superintendent, I think we have emailed you before, and I'm definitely going to reach out to you, see if we can have an opportunity to schedule a meeting. All right. Thank you, everyone.
Schools. I'd be happy to have a conversation with you, but as I stated, we've already started the process with the Urban Debate League, and they're already fully in the process and engaged.
Oh, I can hear you, sir. Okay, I definitely understand. I
I'm
appreciate
gonna go here on the woman, the auditorium.
Just before we do that, Shanice, are you able to open the chat? I'm not sure if someone is trying to make a comment, but
Oh, there's a hand raised, so people can
I
raise their
don't know
hand.
if that is a. Let's go to the room. Janet, go ahead. You wanna, want the mic?
Obviously, being built. I can figure out.
Oh. I just want you to make sure they can hear you on the.
I know that the schools that are being built in Sunset Park and surrounding areas have to follow ADA guidelines. The school building itself has to have elevators, fire doors, accessibility, bathrooms that are meant for people with physical and other disabilities. We need to also be intentful in looking at the surrounding area around the schools. I was walking along the neighborhood today, close to Sunset Park High School. There's a tire shop on 3rd Avenue. They have metal barriers that are grounded onto the floor, making it nearly impossible for a student or parent that has to use any type of device to get to school, whether it is a wheelchair or walker, making it extremely impossible for them to safely walk or
real themselves to the school. So when the schools are being built or when it's being intentful on how, you know, the layout of the building is, it is important to also look at the community. Also walking by PS1, right on Fourth Avenue. The avenue is very, very narrow, and there was plenty of motorbikes parked on poles and trees, making it again really inaccessible for parents walking with strollers and wheelchairs. So that's really important to look at. And we have to be intentional about those things, especially when we're looking at how the schools are being built. And you know, I'm always gonna mention that in District 15 in Sunset Park, the only middle school that's 2 schools in one building is not ADA compliant. And as parents that have, as a parent that has a child with special needs, it is imperative that we think about middle schools and that we think about middle schools not 2 years from now, not 3 years from now, that we think about them now. And I don't want to hear, like I said last night, the word maybe, that's not solving a problem.
So to answer all 3 questions for you, the first one is that unfortunately, the district itself does not make decisions on which sites are going to be selected to become schools. That's school construction authority. I might be able to give a recommendation, then they're going to go out and what they do is they pulse face it, and they're going to go and visit this location and see if it's feasible to create a school based on the guidelines that the federal government and the state government has now on what schools need to have in terms of their schools. So that's the first thing. With regards to the intent of blocking areas that are spaces where families and communities should be able to move based on guidelines with wheelchairs and so on and so forth, I'm going to suggest that we make those complaints to 311. Those complaints will go to the city, to buildings community. They'll also send people out. If you make enough complaints, they'll come out to the tire shop and see, why do you have these metal guards up? You don't own this particular part of the street. You can't do that. And make them take it down or give them a fine. And that makes them change their ways. The motorbikes, the same thing. They're not technically supposed to be parked on the sidewalk. They're supposed to actually be in the street. So those are complaints that can be made. If enough complaints are made, they're going to go make those particular visits. With respect to the last aspect, you're absolutely right. You have to think about what are we doing with those schools. Put this to CEC to think about having those conversations also with capital planning about thinking of 821 and 136 being one of those schools that we're going to address as it relates to ADA compliance, because obviously we know that the charge is to make sure that all of our schools have at least partial or full accessibility. And I know that oftentimes we put in these requests, because I'm sure CEC has already put in this request many times, and they say they're not ready for that now. Now we have an ally here, so we're going to be able to work collectively together and try to push towards getting some of this together. I'll speak to SCA as well to see what we can do, at least at that particular site, knowing that it's one of the only middle schools in the Sunset Park area that's also not ADA compliant at this point. So I'll bring that back and see what I can do and hopefully report to you next month.
As far as physical spaces, they create barriers. I wanted to make that statement because I wanted to put it out into the universe so everyone here on Zoom could be intentful when they're walking in their neighborhood. They can see, hey, this would make it extremely difficult for someone with a disability to walk on their sidewalk because we need to be safe.
Absolutely, 100%. Thank you.
I'm Superintendent Alvarez. Because you're new to the district, you don't know about the history of advocacy that we have had at MS 821. Many years ago, dear Laura came with half a class of students to our CEC meeting and implored us to support having an elevator in this building. And we have put it on our priority list. It was in one of our top 5. We were told by SCA that they were going to pursue it and that it would be done. And to this day, we still have no information on that. And every year I bring it up. So
Deputy Lanzalato, I'm sure taking a note on that. and louder, we're going to address central office about this. But I'm also gonna put it, and you can use add another bullet to the Sunset Park parking that is requesting this as one of their asks of their parking. So that I can work with Camille, Madam President, and push for this. If not at least this year coming up, but know that it's a project that has to happen across our district or in our district. I will work on that tomorrow.
Thank you. Thank you. Laura. For the Spanish interpreters, we're gonna have.
Hay más proyectos como esos que fuimos, especialmente en los últimos proyectos, años, que vienen al laboratorio de ciencias. Yo quisiera saber cuánto han progresado esos proyectos. Dos laboratorios de ciencias en mi school, en 36, ¿cuánto hiciste? Serían 4 laboratorios de ciencia que nosotros abogamos. No ganamos, pero sí dieron el dinero. Quisiera saber a dónde está, si esos proyectos han llegado, aparte de lo que pedimos aquí, así es. No es de ahora, venimos abogando por años y quisiéramos saber dónde están esos proyectos.
What that is asking is, there are multiple projects, including at 821 and 136, specifically around the science labs that were already funded through Reso A grants and grants that were already allocated funding to do that. Would like to know where the progress of those projects are. I'm gonna answer that by next month's CEC, and probably before that, Camille, I'll be able to give it to you and the rest of the CEC members in an email to let you know where we are with those projects. I did reach out to Tamara Smith this morning to request a copy of all the school construction projects that are going on in our district, so that you're aware of what's going on, when it's going on, and what's supposed to happen with it. But then I'm gonna also ask for the different Reso A projects that are currently existing in our district, where they are and what's going on with them, so that we have a projection of when these things are happening in 1 more.
And also, I guess I should just mention that anybody who's looking for information about projects that are happening in your school building, you can find that on the School Construction Authority website. You go to the capital plan page, and it's a little bit complicated because as they're making amendments, they have more and more paperwork. But if you just start from the most recent, you can search the document by putting in 15K and then the number of the building, and it pops up pretty quickly. So if anybody's looking for that and you're having trouble, feel free to reach out and we can walk you through it and show you exactly how to find that information. I think that there's one more comment on the floor. Lucy Antoine. Lucy, do you want to unmute, or do you want me to read the question? Oh, she's writing saying, I'm in a loud
Hi,
location.
everyone. Good evening. How are we?
Ask, are special education evaluations mandated every 3 years if an IEP meeting was held this year?
Yeah. I'm confused at the question. What I'm gonna ask is that she just emailed me and I'll forward it to my AZ, who will be able to get back to her for a one-to-one discussion and clearly respond to her question. Because that's a confusion question. There are triennials and there are annuals. I just have to understand what happened particularly here, and that's complicated, and I don't want to share any personal information. So if you put my email address in the chat, have the parent respond to the email and say it's a special ed question, and I'll direct it to my AC, Alan Aberby,
Lucy actually is a high school parent, so I might just connect her with.
Okay, thank you. You can drop me an email separately, Camille. Thank you.
Okay, so here, I'm giving you back this microphone.
Right now, we're going to start with the CEC members, questions and comments. couple minutes.
Okay, we're handing the mic over then.
Thank you, Superintendent, for sharing the latest data. I think that's very helpful. I do see that the portion of data that you showed that sixth grader for this year, we are losing 0.28%. Today, so as you are aware that since 2019 school year, they are continuing losing enrollment data, specifically for the sixth grader from 2019 till 2022. We lost about 18% just for sixth grader. That's the number I have in front of me, as opposed to 10% loss citywide for sixth grader. As you know that enrollment has direct impact on our funding of schools, and we have here a lot of complaint on on school that lost data and they have to scale down on some of the programs. So my question to you is, do you currently have any plans? Because even including the latest data, which is still -0.28, so just a sixth grader, we still lose 18% in enrollment data for the past couple of years. That's aligned with the volume vision that we implemented since 2019. That's on the data. So the question is, do you currently have any plan that we can reverse it and to have for our school to have more funding this year or next year, so that they are not losing program because of funding loss?
Thank you for the question, Vincent. I just want to be clear on 3 things. We're talking about 0.28, not 1.28, because that would be 1%. We're talking about less than 1%. And if you look at that number, it equated to 5 students. So that's the first thing I just wanted to point out. But also comparative to the city, where it has been losing about on average 5 to 10% a year. Our district, at least in the 6th grade, which is what we're talking about now, which is what we're pointing out, is 0.28. That's representation of about 5 or 6 students. It's also not to say that that number won't change between now and Monday. I don't know if you're aware, but a lot of enrollment things are happening this week. A lot of new kids are being enrolled. People are transferring out of charter schools. People are moving from parochial schools. There's a mixture of those things that are actually happening. The plan right now is to really think about how do we use school-wide enrichment model and how do we use project-based learning, because one of the things that I heard from families is that they want their children challenged. Regardless of what level you're on, whether you're a struggling student or whether you're an accelerated student, the whole point is to ensure that we're providing a challenge for all of our students and rewarding academic excellence. But the other aspect that I have to address in this district that seems to be a little bit more complicated than we're even acknowledging is the fact that in this district, many of our elementary school students, for example, in the Sunset Park section of our district, which is what I shared yesterday at the town hall, they are zoned as elementary school students, so they go to PS 94, 169, they go to 896, and some of the other schools in that area. While they are enrolled in our schools as elementary District 15 students, they sit on a border when they're applying for middle school, they have access to District 20 schools. Oftentimes, parents don't want their children in the Sunset Park section to leave the neighborhood as much to travel across the district, which is one of the reasons why Lava and many parents in the Sunset Park are have been arguing for a school in the Sunset Park section. We have one, but again, it's in District 20, not 15, because of where it sits, even though it is in Sunset Park. So my job really right now is to identify why that's consistently happening and figuring out how do we address it. I'm in the figuring out how to address it stage of this as opposed to reaction stage. And I'd like to be proactive about how I'm addressing the situation instead of being reactive. And for me, looking at the data and looking at the patterns and trends, it's really an anomaly where those kids are just going to the District 20 schools because they don't want to travel far enough to have to go to another school. That's what I see so far. I'm not saying that that's the only reason or the only answer. I'm just saying I need more time to analyze more data. That's why WXY is helping me with figuring out what is the data saying, what are the trends, interviewing parents from those schools to address that. One of the ways I'm addressing acceleration and support is providing and ensuring that every school is mandated to provide project-based learning and school-wide enrichment model. So we're ensuring that every school has opportunities for rigor, for acceleration, and for discovery and joy of learning. And so that's what I'm working towards now. I cannot give a definitive answer as to what the result's going to be because I haven't started that endeavor yet. Give me time. This year will be that time to do that work, to not only get evaluation and assessment from WXY, but also to implement project-based learning in an effective way, as opposed to saying we're just going to put project-based learning in. Everybody has it, but going through the processes of learning through the kinks to it. And we have Jen Yonkers, who's from Division of Teaching and Learning, whose specific expertise is around challenge for students and using more creative ways to support students. I need that opportunity to be able to do that. So that's one way I'm doing that. Another way I'm trying to keep students within our district and challenge them is by providing district-wide initiatives. Things like the Urban Debate League, where kids are going to compete against each other and participate against each other across the district. Things like science fairs and district-wide initiatives that engage kids in a different way instead of just one particular way. So that we're tapping into all students' natural talents instead of believing that some kids are smarter than others or have less of a challenge towards others, if that makes sense. And so I want to make sure that we're looking at all kids at their best abilities and figuring out how do we continue to push that regardless of what school they go to, because the crux of a district and the foundation of a district is how do you get your most struggling students to succeed? And if you can do that, then that's the antithesis of really what it is to be a really great district, right? That we're pushing all of our kids regardless of ability and challenging them. We also have to challenge our teachers. For far too long in this district, a lot of our teachers have had certain groups of kids, and with the dynamic of the pandemic, they're facing a lot of challenges that they've never faced before. It's our responsibility to support them in that process and ensure that we provide them the professional development that they need in order to be successful.
Hi, Superintendent. Thank you so much for the presentation tonight. I really appreciated seeing additional highlighting of the change in population in New York City students. And I'd like to just make a comment about our last meeting that we had. We had the Office of District Planning. I encourage everyone to go back to the recording and watch that. It's very informative, very hard numbers and just really insightful. And the thing that I learned from that meeting, and I see that you're really picking up on here, is that our district is seeing a greater degree of stability and substantially less risk of losing funds based on that stability. And I'd like to think that it has something to do with that diversification of our schools. It is providing a stability that the citywide would not see. And they further highlighted like the hypothesis that kids are leaving DOE because it's not rigorous was clearly demonstrated in the numbers, not to be a true hypothesis, in that charter schools are losing students at a greater degree than we are even citywide, never mind D15. So it is clear based off of the analytics that people are leaving the city post-pandemic.
Thank you for the comment. I just want to say 2 points to your comment. Number one, Please note that the numbers that you see in terms of enrollment are usually by the cutoff date of October 31st. In no way, shape, or form can that be considered a number that we rely on consistently, because after October 31st, they will leave our system, enter our system. Families come in January, families come in February, they come in March, some families leave at certain times of the year because of the nature of our city as we're a melting pot for this world. And so families go back home to their native countries, they come here, they go, they come, they go. It's gonna happen consistently, but when we look at our numbers and I look at the budgets of our schools, many of our schools are not behind in enrollment numbers. At this point in District 15, and I've shared that information already, and I can continue to share it with you on a monthly basis if necessary. What we're seeing is that the numbers are gaining. What we're relying on are register projections. Please keep in mind, register projections are decided based on the trends and patterns that we see across the city, but also across the district and individual schools. They are just that, a prediction. Projections and predictions aren't always accurate. They're educated guesses as to where we may fall or not fall. A perfect example is PS 58, where at one point the register projection was one number. We were under by 113 students. By far, when I reported to you in August and September, we looked like that school was gonna lose $2 million in funding for their school. By the time September came, she was above not only the register projection, but above by like 50, 60 kids, which actually gave her a registered gain. So I want us to understand that projections are that, they're predictions. They don't predict exactly what the outcome's gonna be. In some cases, some schools are gonna be above. In other cases, some schools are gonna be below. The schools that are below usually put money that's what's called set aside, where they keep this extra money set aside and then they have to pay back so that they're not in a negative budget throughout the year. If their numbers go up, they take that money back. Right now, I don't see any one particular school that's being really hit any way particularly hard. What a lot of schools are waiting for is to figure out how much money are some schools gonna get and how much some schools are gonna have to give back. The most part, the schools that have to give back is not so much, and they had already prepared for that because they already set aside money to cover that bill, so to speak. So I think that the state of the district is strong comparative to other parts of the city. And I think that our enrollment numbers have evened out at this point before October 31st. But in the interest of supporting CEC 15, on Monday, which is October 31st at 3 p.m., I will provide an updated list of our numbers across our district in alignment to the register projection, so that you at least have access to which schools may have been hit and which schools weren't hit based on the projections that were originally provided early on in the year, if that helps.
Thank you.
Thank you.
In terms of, I had a quick question on the reset development, year 15. That we kind of enroll welcome families, immigrant families. Definitely is going to skew the numbers. How much have you considered that as part of what was initially registered to do?
Thank you for that question, and without going into specific details, because we're not allowed to share whether or not a student is a asylum seeker or not, what we do know is that we have a large number of students in our shelters right now, so that might be impacted by those numbers. I just don't have an exact number. What I do know is that the chancellor and the mayor have done, which is trying to be proactive about this support. Intentionally, many of our students are going to one or two particular schools. Primarily because many of the students who are coming in now are bilingual or expressions. They are monolingual, but their native language is Spanish. And so what we've been doing is that providing them with programs and access to dual language programs, because that's the easiest way for them to begin to transition in learning the language, but also in supporting the native language. Many of these children have gone to school in their native country, so there's this misnomer that they're coming here about having the difference is that it's been interrupted because of their journey here. They may not have had full year's worth of education, but many of them do because we've been getting transcripts and everything else from schools. What I can say is it's not impacting us as much. There are schools across the city that are specific schools that have identified that have multiple students. We in District 15 currently, while there are some students that have gone to different schools, the one school that has been impacted the most by this is PS 124. We've been in coordination with this particular principal in providing this principal support with the additional resources in collaboration with Principal Maria Diaz, with Principal Christina Gonzalez from 94, and with some of our other schools who've been providing resources in coordination with City Councilmember Hanif, City Councilmember Aviles, who have been working diligently to create these hubs where we're providing resources. And then the superintendent has been working with God's Love and some other organizations that have been trying to provide additional support for our families. And I've been trying to get additional resources for PS 124, which I was able to secure a social worker, Bridging the Gap social worker, which works directly with the shelters, but also the community coordinators that were hired from the DOE to the shelters to provide additional support. It was what's called the excess social worker that also reassigned to PS 124 to provide the support. So what's happened at 124 now is we've capped 1 or 2 classes because she doesn't have the capacity to take any more additional students. Those students have since been sent to schools like 118 because they have room in specific grades and classes. We're also trying to keep the families together. Recently, we've been working with Julie Kavanaugh at PS 15, where additional students are starting to come in. She has room in her dual language program, and she's welcoming those students as well to not only fill her program, but also it's easier to provide one bus to multiple students living at the same location to be able to provide access, because not only will they have friends and community members that they can work or talk to, but be intentional about how we're providing the support. So I don't know what's happening across the city in terms of how we're supporting students across other districts, but I can tell you that in 15, we're being extremely intentional about who's supporting, which supports, and how we're collaborating with different leaders to provide those services. And we're also working with outside agencies along with our elected officials to create hubs across our district, so we're providing the resources to those families. We know which shelters they're in, we just don't know which ones are asylum and which ones aren't, because again, we're not entitled to that information, and we would never share that information anyway. Anything else?
Thank you so much, Superintendent.
Finished comments and questions from the CEC members, and now we're going to get the report from, one second. The Brooklyn North High School Superintendent's report.
Good evening, everyone. I was hoping Raphael would be tired, so we wouldn't be so hard to follow. So much for that. This is wonderful. You guys all know what I mean. That's exactly him. I will make this brief. Very fuzzy, but you guys will all have this website, I think.
You got, hold on a minute. I think Shanice is trying to do the screen share. Shanice, are you able to do the, you're doing?
Yeah. Another one who was hard to follow. How many computers you got back there? We always start with our goals that are aligned to the transfer skill deliveries around expectations of graduation and secondary successes. We engage our families, we're challenging all of our schools to increase family involvement. I've personally taken on working with parent coordinators, with some amazing people throughout the North. And as a high school district, we're constantly focused on attendance. I reviewed this data with you guys last time. We always like to show off our 4-year trends. The
4 years since Janice Ross has been superintendent. We have consistently increased graduation and consistently improved attendance. And also, we always look at schools who are above 80%, below 80%. And
But would you mind speaking a little louder? They can't hear you.
yes, hello Zoom people, sorry about that. Yeah, so this is just a review of our 4-year trends since Janice Ross has been superintendent, and super proud of the steady increase in graduation and steady improvement in attendance. At the end of last year, we ended the year with about 38% of our students being chronically absent. It's something we're paying attention to. Next slide, please. As you know, we don't have all of the high schools in District 15, but these are the ones in our portfolio that we know and love. And because of where we are, I have to shout out Sunset Park High School, which is a few blocks away from here. Prince Anthony Center Best. If you're not familiar with the school and you are interested, they are having an open house on October 27th. At 9 a.m. and all are welcome. It's an amazing school. They have almost 1,500 students. However, the school is broken up into 3 houses. There's an art house, health and human services, and a business enterprises from 9th to 11th grade. In 12th grade, everyone joins what they call the 12th grade academy. And the purpose of that is for students to have a college experience while they are still here in the loving arms of the neighborhood. If you are not familiar with the school, sunsetparkhighschool.org, they have a plethora of college partnerships. Students can take college courses while obtaining high school credit in psychology, in pre-cal, and they recently started some work with data science. They partner with St. Francis, with the University of Albany, with Brooklyn College. On top of that, they have 10 different AP courses. So along with the themes, Rafael earlier spoke about accelerating 8th grade. That is a trend that we continue. So if you haven't visited Sunset Park, please do. They would love to see all of you. CEC, if you ever need a spot for a meeting, they would be happy to have you guys.
I want to give a shout out to Sunset Park High School too. They have an incredible school-based health team over there. Their principal is very, very responsive. I've written to her a few times and it's just like moments later, she's responding and, you know, she doesn't know me. But my son took a class there over the summer and it was just a great experience. So I think everybody should really consider Sunset Park High School like on their high school admissions list. Thank you.
Yeah, I will make sure Big C's are reporting for this. We had an all-day principals meeting out at St. John University and Vicky wanted to come back. Go home. It's been a really long day. Next slide, please. So we're tracking attendance as a Brooklyn North High School District. We're at 89%, and we're really excited because as a district we reached 90%. And this morning, as Janice said to the principals, we can smell it. We are so close. We have a cross-functional attendance team. Right now in this district, we are focusing on Sunset Park, at John Jay Law and Cobble Hill to make sure they have all the support they need to find the no-show students, to clear out their long-term absences, and to make sure that every awesome seat in the school is made available for students. Super proud right now that we only have, actually that is, as of 3 days ago, we had 6 schools below 80% attendance year to date. As of this morning, we only have 3 schools that are below 80%. So that is a district focus that we're really proud of. Last time I was here, someone asked for ethnicity breakdown for our schools. So this is as of yesterday. Across Black and Hispanic, about 20% Asian, and the diversity. So I wanted to bring that back. I can't remember who asked, but I did my homework. Slide. The big question that was asked of me was, where are our CTE programs? So again, when you get the deck, I gave you too much information about the topic. We are working on adding CTE programs in District 15. Right now, Cobble Hill has a law academy, and the Laurel Hill for International Studies has culinary arts. We are meeting, and Raphael, we're always happy to have you join us. We're meeting with Chief Green and the OSDR team, because there should be more than 2 CTE programs in District 15. So we will work on that. The next slide, please. We are super proud to have the legacy CTE schools. We have Westinghouse, we have Maxwell, we have what used to be automotive and is now ATEC. This is all on the DOE website, so I'll make sure you have the link for that. Next slide, please. And just across our 7 districts, we, building off of the legacy of these schools that a lot of people know about. Some schools, some programs we have that folks don't know about is, Raphael talked about project-based learning. If you are not familiar with the Williamsburg School of Architecture and Design, I would challenge you to check them out. They recently, on Wednesday, they're out on Staten Island and Greenbelt, because they're helping the borough redesign the park. They're working on a renovation project at Borough Hall. Bill Cornell has spent 13 years doing this thing the chancellor calls reimagining the student experience. Another school in the Lake campus is Multicultural High School, which is a newcomer school, and was recently certified for an aviation technology program. Next slide, please. Another area of need we're working on is there currently is not a certified CTE program in District 23, so we're working on that program still. And since I made this slide, Bushwick Leaders High School has become the first state-approved CTE program for data science. Yeah, right. We talk about preparing kids for the future. We have to prepare the industries of the future. And I also bring the CEC greetings from the CTE team at Central. They would be happy to come. They love talking about the work of CTE and career readiness. And they would be happy to come anytime. I think I talked about that we actually did. Our parent coordinators each month will submit articles to us. There's a link on here, it's also on our website. It's really fun, and we love our parent coordinators. It's one of the many things that they do to help us as a community and districts feel like a community. Just some examples of your district. This is Digital Tech High School. Caroline Fox is a force and is always so enthusiastic. If you don't follow her on Twitter, I recommend that you do, because she's an inspiration. Next slide. This is Cobble Hill High School for American Studies, and they had a back to school event where it was just focused on wellness of the spirit and game night, wellness of the body, and they had a smoothie test, which was really fun. Next slide. And Brooklyn Millennium, celebrating their sports team. They recently elevated one of their teachers to become a director of community. And we're expecting some really fun and amazing things that focus on equity and restorative justice. And this idea of having a director of community is resonant of the values of the school. Next slide, please. And then as a district, we had an awesome mini high school fair that I spoke about last time. Of the 70 middle schools across our catchment, we had about 40 attend. And the schools were really happy to be able to engage with their middle school colleagues. The Brooklyn High School superintendent had a thinking together breakfast with all of the elected officials who serve the neighborhood. And the next slide, my favorite event of October was the launch of our My Brother's Keeper, My Sister's Keeper event. We had 2 ambassadors from every school, so we had 94 students, 47 adult mentors, and lots of allies. The event for the day was for students in district teams to brainstorm what are the biggest challenges that they are experiencing as students, and it was tremendous. So if you guys are interested, I can bring some of the district kids to come and share their findings with you. It was a way of us to be a community and to let the kids know that their voices matter. These are almost grown up, so we want to be that way. And right now, the follow-up that my team is doing is we take all of their charts and we're trying to connect them with other folks who can help them continue to explore. A slide that I didn't have time to make was another version of this. I don't know if anyone has heard of the Aspen Challenge. You know? So it's a really cool thing that's going on for about 10 years. And it's funded by maybe Jeff Bezos' father. It's a Bezos Family Foundation, but it's this idea of the answers in the room. So for the past 10 years, they've been going around the country. They started in Aspen, and they gain one city every year. And the idea is to get students to explore and elevate challenges in their community. And then the Aspen Challenge group brings in resources. They bring in adults, they bring in thinkers. And the kids spend a year designing a solution to the dilemma. And then there are winning teams who then travel to Aspen to present in a worldwide event. And Brooklyn North High School District is the first New York City Aspen Challenge partner. So we're super excited about that. I'll tell you when it's on. I think that's all I have. Oh my gosh, Janice would be really mad if I didn't say this. We are having an in-person gigantic Brooklyn North High School Fair on Saturday, November 12th, from 11 to 3. Our campus, the principals are hosting it, all of our high schools will be represented. And we will work on a virtual version for folks who aren't able to attend in person. But we're really excited about this. This is the thing that's going to make this new normal. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for your. Thank you very much for your report. And we have.
I think it's all. Or do you want to?
Thank you again. Myself. If there are any comments on the interpretation lines, please. You check with us.
There are no questions in the Bengali line.
There's no question in the Spanish line.
No question in Mandarin line.
No questions on the interpretation lines, and we're gonna go here to the auditorium and there is a question. Yeah.
Janet.
Janet.
Seeing none, I have a comment / question that might turn into a statement. In regards to the CTE programming, I think it is extremely important. I have a little cousin that graduated as an LPN in a school in Staten Island and is now ready to take MCAT for medical school. I also have another little cousin that took computer science, and he works for a hospital in Staten Island, and he works for the IT department. Especially for community like ours, it's extremely important because the parents do not have the money and the resources to send their children to colleges. If anyone here knows Ms. Rachel C. Monaco, she was a teacher at telecommunications for many years. She is now a teacher at Wyman High School in Staten Island. She's very big on the CTE curriculum. She just took a group of students over to St. John's University over on the Staten Island campus, and her proposal is how are they going to utilize that space now that St. John's is no longer going to be there? How they're going to implement the CTE program in the school, because St. John's had certain programs that can be CTE programs. I also commented to her the importance of the CTE programs being geared to students with disability. Many children are graduating without high school diplomas. How can we be intentional to ensure that these children that are graduating with certificates are able to join some CTE programs and able to gain meaningful and gainful employment after their high school experience, because obviously they're not graduating with a Regents diploma, which I think that's completely unfair and unjust. Today I'm missing a workshop with Include NYC where they were going to discuss students with IEP graduating with high school diplomas. Tomorrow I'm going to be missing that one as well. And students with IEP that graduated without high school diplomas. And I think that's extremely important. I believe one of the reps for Include NYC made a statement on how I believe it was 26,000 students are graduating without high school diploma and how that impacts their trajectory later on in life. We're trying to raise working men and women in the society. So my comment, question, statement is let's be intentional with the CTE programs and let's ensure that these schools, especially schools in Sunset Park High School, which has a high enrollment rate, which also has a high rate of children in low-income families, that they have access to programs like this. So collaborating with local colleges like New York City Tech, the MTC, those colleges that offer 2-year degrees so they can go into the workforce. Twitter, Google, Amazon, all these companies are looking for these brilliant minds.
Thank you. I think the community is lucky to have you.
So one of the things I did at Success when I was superintendent is I used my middle school to be able to access the CTE program. So what students were doing was on their first period, Monday to Thursday, for example, they would be going to the local high school first period. And then staff members from my team would bring them to their high school visits within walking distance. Perhaps we could do that with maybe one of the CTE programs within our district. So we can start engaging students and being able to take for a semester high school class in CTE, where they're getting the credit for attending the class and then being able to go back to their schools to continue their studies there so that they're being engaged. But it's also another way to improve enrollment. We did that with Principal Paulus in a CTE program that she had for 4 different things. She had electrical engineering, she had electrical, she had plumbing, HVAC, and carpentry. And we started off with 8 students from 2 middle schools. And by the time I left, we had 23 students from 4 middle schools who all ended up getting high school credit, and 20 and up for enrollment improvement because those students ended up going to that school because they already started off with 2, 3, 4, up to 5 credits of high school credit in the CTE program, which gave them options of CTE or college track. So we were really successful with that. So maybe something we can partner with Superintendent Ross.
Absolutely, and I heard you say earlier about the work closely with the team, as Westinghouse team as well as Science High School, and both of those schools have very strong and diverse CTE programs.
Tengo una hija que está en high school. Lo que yo quisiera pedir es, dice que en las escuelas no se puede hablar de política, no se puede hablar de religión. Y yo quisiera, en medio de ese foro, cada niño que piense diferente, sexualidades diferentes sean respetados y no oprimidos. Me gustaría que los salones de clases usen para educar y no para crear conflictos entre estudiantes y oprimir a los que piensan diferente. También, si vamos
a alguien para hacer la traducción.
You want to do it?
Sure, I'll translate for her. What Laura was saying was that she wants to make sure that they talk about we're not supposed to be political advocates in schools or speaking about politics and certain things in particular school. She would hope that we take that into consideration when we're having our teaching classes and not to force other people's values on against their own values in the way they can see. In terms of religious beliefs and so on and so forth. She was told that as a school system, that we're ensuring that if there's respect on both sides and not actually putting one's values on anybody else, just like we're not expected to put our values on anybody else.
Es muy triste como padres escuchar a los niños cuando llegan a casa. Ellos van a buscar educación para el futuro y no oprimirlos por sus valores. He pasado muchos malos momentos con la escuela. Gracias a Dios ya el último año y ojalá, yo sé que hay otros jóvenes que no pueden hablar, que están siendo primeros y ojalá que eso pare. Como siempre dicen, no hablamos política y no quisiera que estén celebrando otros políticos dentro de las escuelas, como los niños quizás tienen otros valores y quieren revelar sus motivaciones. No lo sé. Vamos a hablar de inclusión, vamos a hablar de equidad, de diversidad, de igualdad, y de deben quitar o deben quitar no pueden hacer ayudar a los
Essentially, what she's saying is that allowing for political conversations in schools is oppressing many of the students and the different who have different values and beliefs, and not necessarily the same shared beliefs as maybe what's being presented or even across in a class, and that all sides have to be respected. And if we're going to be studying in school, it should be about the educational value and not necessarily about our personal values or conflicting morally or in any other way. She's experienced that with her own child, and thankfully her child's graduating this year, so she doesn't worry about it anymore. But concerned about her child not being able to express their personal views, but others are able to. And so what happens in her child's case that they just don't even share that they're not teased or treated differently or treated in a different way just because of their different values and beliefs. And so unfortunately, her child it might impact the way to see her child. And so it's been very difficult for her child to have to hold those values and beliefs in without sharing for fear of retaliation for sharing. And that we, if I'm clear, we have to think about the same thing that we're doing in our schools, but also in our conversations, so that we're teaching our kids that, because unfortunately in our society today, we have so much division that we don't even see the things that we have in common.
Sorry about that, I need to point that. So if your child is having those experiences in one of our schools, Rafael's or ours, we want to know, Janice and myself, we hear and we want to hear and affirm all the experiences that children are having. Today at our principals meeting, actually, we were celebrating the fact that there's an amazing curriculum. He's more than the curriculum called BH365, Black History 365. And our district is the only district that has every single school offer a course from that curriculum. They are now building, because of their work with our schools, they are now building a Latin 365 curriculum that will be piloted in the Brooklyn North District High Schools. We're very excited about that.
Yeah, I need to translate. She and Lara actually understand during the very careful, so it's just for the translation.
Better than my attempt at high school Spanish.
I didn't send the video, but I will continue, but
So I'll give you my email before I leave, and if it's one of our schools, let us follow up. Absolutely, absolutely. Yeah.
I'm just gonna add a little bit of statement in the sense that I think a lot of it too is the teachers are in conversations for everyone's side. So there's conversations on certain politicians or certain political norms that are occurring, and the teachers are leaving the conversations very one-sided. And when a student has a difference of an opinion, or a student wants to project certain facts that they have gathered, they're kind of pushed over to the side and told, you're racist, you're a bigot, you're a Trump supporter. And they're just wanting to present information that they gathered because they want to have conversations. They want to have challenging conversations amongst each other to say, we all have a difference of opinion. We can sit at this table and talk, but teachers are taking one side because many teachers are very politically motivated and they're bringing that into the classroom. Yes, we can speak politics, we can speak religion, but everyone should have that right, not just one-sided. That happened to us in middle school with my daughter, and this is why I made the decisions that I made for her for high school. Our family dynamic, we couldn't even discuss in our middle school, because if she would have, it would have been pushing her completely out the door. And I understood the topic and the narrative of the movement, and we fully supported it, but because of who we are as her parents and what we do for a living, she couldn't have those conversations because she knew they were going to be very difficult and very isolating, and she was going to be oppressed because of who her parents are and what they do for a living. So it's really important that the teachers in the school look at things from different angles, sit back, and for them to be moderators in the conversation and not take a side and tell the students only one side is right. That's very important, and it needs to be brought down to the teaching level, because this is the only way we're gonna have engaging conversation.
I think from District 15's perspective, that's what we're trying to work towards. That's why all of our middle schools are now engaged in urban debate league. That's really one of the processes where they learn both sides of the argument so that they understand how to make an argument, but also respect and value that there are differences of opinions around certain areas. And that's why I brought in the National Urban Debate League. It helped define some changes in personalities, but also in students understanding that there are differences of opinions that can be respected, which is why I brought it into 15. In addition to that, I hope I've been modeling that when I'm having my town halls to understand that there is different perspectives on the same issue, and that all ideas need to be heard and respected and honored, and their voices to be heard. Hope I'm modeling that for the adults, because sometimes adults in our schools also need that being modeled. I was supposed to, turn off the chat the other day, but for the purposes of ensuring that everyone was able to speak freely, I allowed it to continue, but I was supposed to closing it down myself, because I think that as adults, we have to model those behaviors to our kids as well. So I'm in agreement with you. That's something that we're going to continue to work on as a district. One of the ways that I'm trying to engage students in doing that is to start with the debate leagues, because I really do believe that if they learn how to take arguments to sides, then they can at least, at the very least, respect the other side, even if they don't agree with it. I learned from the chancellor recently is, the chancellor has a lot of things that he has said. One of the things I've learned from this particular chancellor is collaboration doesn't always mean you have to agree. It doesn't even mean that you have to accept the decisions. Collaboration means you're engaging everyone in the process, and even though we don't always agree, doesn't necessarily mean that I'm gonna throw your idea to the side, that I can use it at some point or use it in another way. So I think that that's what we're trying to model in this district, that's something I continue to model. And I need to be checked when I'm not doing it. I need to hear when I'm not doing that. But I certainly don't tolerate bullying. I don't like to be bullied. I don't think anybody likes to be bullied. I don't accept bullying, and I will challenge any bullying that happens. So if those things are happening, please let us know, because I take those things very seriously. I sometimes am involved in some of these cases that happen from schools. Sometimes it's not bullying, it's something else. But we have to get all the facts and information. So, and I know that Superintendent Ross is all about that. She's pedagogy of critical love, so we already know that she engages in restorative justice practices and anything that's gonna help students feel safe in their environment. Because at the end of the day, any child or every child should feel safe wherever they go.
And I would say that it breaks my heart to hear the experience that you have as a woman and as a mom. And I would say to all parents, like, this is why you have amazing superintendents. I think, I would like to think that most educators get up every day and try to do the best they can. But if if students are having experiences that are creating the feelings that you are describing, we need to know. We can only fix it if we know.
Thank you so much, Shuat. We appreciate you, and please send our regards to Superintendent Ross. We miss her. Okay. I'm just going to skip the CEC comments because we're so far behind schedule, and you guys all have email. So if you want to write directly, you may. Okay, so I'm looking at the clock. We're probably 40 minutes behind schedule. So I just want to take 2 minutes to discuss with our members what part of this agenda we are going to bump to the next meeting, because we are not going to be able to get through the agenda before our permit closes.
Hybrid meetings.
Okay, Tia is proposing moving hybrid meetings and liaison reports.
I'm proposing the outside works so that we have more time.
And the night repair process.
The other one was.
I think we need to do the
other one-
resolutions though, Vincent, because otherwise we have to wait until the next calendar meeting. We haven't been voting. November 29th.
So we have another meeting in 2 weeks from now?
That's the business meeting.
Can vote on the.
We haven't been voting in the business meeting on resolutions unless you want to have a special session.
Always discussing our business meeting.
I mean, we
we went
still
on.
have like
for-
say
for-
20 minutes,
Yeah,
so.
I think first resolution is fine. There's the second one, only 1 hour of more time and discussion. So like.
Well, I mean, the class size resolution was given to us by somebody else, so it's really just a yes or no. Like it's not really.
It's our resolution, right?
Yeah, but we were adopting it from.
It's our resolution,
So-
we should be allowed to amend it. Okay. This is what I would like to discuss.
Okay,
So one time, and, you know,
well, let's read it. Did we read it in the last meeting? Okay, let's present it and then we can discuss.
So let's hear.
Okay, so So the first resolution is a resolution to support reform of NYCHA's repair process. And we went over this in our last meeting and discussed with the members and public comment at that time. There were some changes made to the resolution, which are being screen shared and are in red. That first line just added the number of students, I found out. And the second line, we added the Latin term for black mold. And then the next, oh, I thought it was up there. I see it on the Zoom. What happened? Come again? You're not able to put it up there. Do we have hard copies? Okay, I have. Yeah, why don't you guys give out your copies? Okay. So I will, as quickly as possible, read this again. We had a reading the last time and this was sent to the public, but resolution to support reform of NYCHA repair process. Whereas per the white paper, How the Other Half Lives in Public Housing, the New York City Housing Authority, NYCHA, is home to over 535,686 New Yorkers residing within its public housing, Section 8 and permanent affordability commitment, together rental assistance demonstration programs. Despite years of promises and decades of varying plans, NYCHA's housing stock has continued to decline even under the watchful eye of a federal monitor and the leadership of several appointed chairs of the NYCHA board. Whereas 130,000 of New York City public school students reside in NYCHA public housing, which is fundamentally uninhabitable and unsafe. Whereas many New York City public school students who live in NYCHA residences are forced to bathe in bathrooms filled with, okay, I said I was going to learn how to say this, and stop moving the screen, please. Stachybotrys tartarum. Oh gosh. Okay, otherwise known as black mold, which exacerbates already high instances of asthma in low-income communities of color. Whereas many New York City public school students live with clogged ventilation, ceiling paint, and rodents, which can be found throughout apartments and contribute to poor health outcomes such as respiratory issues, cognitive delays, and various illnesses. Whereas these health issues will lead to chronic absenteeism from school. Whereas New York City public school parents are often forced to feed their children without access to cooking gas, often for months at a time. Whereas New York City public school families living in NYCHA residences are forced to live with cracked and or broken windows during brutal winter months, causing families to resort to huddling together without heat or hot water and forced to use potentially dangerous space heaters. Whereas children cannot learn in school when they are impacted by extraordinary circumstances like these at home. Whereas children and families that suffer in unsanitary and unhealthy conditions will inevitably miss days, weeks, and in some cases months of class time and work days, widening achievement gaps and creating the conditions for school push out for our children and unemployment for their parents. Oh, it's supposed to be school dropout. Antonia, can you change that, school dropout? Whereas there are advocates for better housing conditions and intersectional educational policy that supports the whole child and family in all 5 boroughs, calling for urgent attention to funding and management issues in NYCHA housing. Whereas families residing in NYCHA residences should not be subjected to hazardous, unhealthy living conditions. Whereas Brooklyn North CECs, CEC 13, 14, 15, 16, 19, 23, and 32 have come together to elevate, advocate for, and prioritize the needs, health, and safety of NYCHA residents. Therefore, be it resolved that Brooklyn North CEC support the passage of the following legislative measures. amending local law 55-2018, the Healthy Homes Act to include NYCHA, amending local law 127-2021 to mandate automatic inspections by New York City inspectors and the issuance of any building or housing code violations, and work together to supply resources, including the funds needed to support New Yorkers living in public housing. Approval by the New York City Office of Management and Budget to allow NYCHA to utilize the job order contract for certain capital eligible projects that will assist in fast tracking much needed capital work, so it is not subject to the long delays that are inherent in the federal procurement process. Mandating that NYCHA, in advance of a resident meeting, provide 1 month's notice and proof thereof that states the date and time when it will present at a resident association meeting on its upcoming capital work in that development. Are there any comments on the Zoom or anybody here in the auditorium that would like to share feedback on this resolution? Please raise your hand or feel free to unmute. And I would ask the Spanish, Mandarin, and Anglo lines, if you have anybody that would like to make a comment.
There's no one in the Spanish line.
No one on the Spanish line?
No one in Mandarin line. Thank you.
No one on the Mandarin line?
In Bengali line either.
No one on the Bangla line. Okay, so I'll move to CEC member comments. I know you all made comments in the last meeting, but if anybody has any final remarks.
Motion to vote on the resolution.
Okay, we will move to a vote. Nancy made a motion. Vanessa is seconding that motion. Nancy, do you mind calling the roll?
Camille Casaretti.
I approve.
Tia Shelsky. Vincent Liu. Nana Poguagiaco. Alfred D'Angelis. Joseph Alexander. Yvonne Bonda. Nancy Randall approved. Vanessa Gonzalez Uyoka.
Okay, so our resolution passes and we will send that to New York City Council. The next resolution is a resolution to support the creation of a task force of the class size reduction plan. Whereas in June 2022, the legislature overwhelmingly passed Senate Bill 9460 and Assembly Bill 10498 by a vote of 59-4 in the Senate and 147-2 in the Assembly, requiring that New York City implement a 5-year reduction plan beginning in the fall of 2022. Whereas on September 8th, 2022, Governor Kathy Hochul signed the bill into law based upon a statement that the bill will be amended to begin the 5-year phase-in period on September 2023. Whereas the law calls for class size caps to be achieved over this period of no more than 20 students per class in grades K to 3, no more than 23 students per class in grades 4 through 8th, and no more than 25 students per class in high schools, with physical education and performing arts classes capped at 40 students per class. Whereas each year, starting in September 2023, 20% of all classes must achieve these caps, with an additional 20% of classes added each year until all schools comply with these caps by the end of 2027-28 school year, with the documented attainment of these caps due September 2028. Whereas the city's plan is supposed to prioritize schools with high levels of poverty to reduce class size first. Whereas the law says the plan shall be a product of negotiation between the Department of Education, the United Federation of Teachers, and the Council of School Administrators. Whereas parents, advocates, students, community members, and elected officials must be included to help develop this plan in the most transparent and accountable manner, and to guarantee that there will be sufficient space, funding, and staffing to achieve the goals within the time frame specified by the law. Whereas the planning process needs to start now, especially to ensure that the capital plan includes sufficient new space in our most overcrowded communities. Whereas reducing class size is critical need to ensure equity for all New York City school students, and there is no time to waste. Be it resolved that CEC 15 calls on the Chancellor, the UFT, and the CSA to establish a task force by April 15, 2023 that includes parents, advocates, students, community members, and elected officials to work with them in the most transparent and accountable manner to develop an effective, equitable, and achievable class size reduction plan. Vincent, I'll hand the mic over to you.
Is there a motion to table this?
Yes.
Okay. So does anybody second that motion?
What is the reason?
Yeah, no, I don't know the technique, but I think I sent it. The current class reduction bill, it does not include sufficient funding for the mandate. I believe there was study being done that a lot of funding has been allocated without to avoid the impact of other legal programs for our school. Different schools have different issues. The one issue that our school has enough funding to implement such mandate, so that our students are not getting impacted. I want to make sure that it's very close to 9:30. I want to take the time, but I want to make sure that we have sufficient time for this and watching this, because we have attacked this. It's our solution, and we should be able to amend this to the point that we can find consensus in our house.
Is there a second? Okay, let's vote.
Second table.
Yes. Camille has right. Yeah, Chelsea.
I vote not to table it.
Vincent Booth.
I vote yes to table.
Nana Prokoyeko.
Yes. Table.
Alfred Diogenes.
Yes to table.
Joseph Alexander.
No.
Ivan Bonda.
No.
Nancy Randall, no. Vanessa Gonzalez Uyoka.
No.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We have 6 no votes. 1, 2, 3. 6 no votes means it passed. It is not tabled. All right, it is not tabled. Would, yes. Okay. So I'll pass it to Yvonne.
We are gonna take public comments now. And do we have anybody on the transaction line? The transaction line.
There's no one in the Bengali line.
There's no one in the Spanish line. No one in Mandarin line.
No comments or questions in the interpretation line, so we're gonna go to public comments here in the auditorium.
I'm just gonna question number 5. Where it says, whereas the city plans to prioritize school high levels of poverty and class size first. Are they talking just on elementary school or middle school as well? Also, so with the diversity and the and going different neighborhoods based on their lottery ranking, how are they going to determine the poverty level of the school? Just the poverty level is determined based on the neighborhoods that the schools, physical building is located in? I mean, I'm just questioning.
That's
my
what the
first
law-
slide, huh?
That's the way the law is.
The law for, okay. I just questioned that, how the poverty level is determined for the middle school. So we shouldn't have any poverty before the middle school.
So right now, we don't have a lot of schools that are overcrowded anyway. So, that is not going to have our schools away in my school. I was saying that, this law, the way it has been laid out, is not going to impact District 15 in the same ways it might impact other districts. For example, in Queens, where they do have a lot of overcrowded classrooms. For us, we're probably already within that first year range anyway, without doing any changes. And so I don't think District 15 is going to have much trouble meeting those numbers. Which is why I feel comfortable with it, and to this point about needing extra money to do this in a way that it's not going to adversely impact us. I think that we're gonna just sort of like coast right along and meet those numbers within the range without too much of an upset. So personally, I'm feeling okay with the way that looks. And we can, maybe what we can do is look at the enrollment numbers when we get them next month from the Superintendent Alvarez, and look at them with this in mind and think about, you know, which of those schools would be impacted, and then talk to their principals and to leadership teams and just make sure that they're supported. That's what I'm thinking.
Do we have any other comments and council now?
Oh, do I turn it on? Okay, I just wanted to point out that the resolutions for a task force. So, you know, what a task force does is they research things like this. So what we're voting on is the formation of a task force. Something like that.
Nancy? Do you have any comments in the council?
Yeah, I just want to reiterate the part point that, yes, it's still, it's the creation of a task force. And while there's some bunch of facts, but it's important that also the fact about the shortcoming of this bill. We don't just mind supporting the bill because funding is critical, especially this year, with funding reduction, perhaps will impact it. Adding this to the burden of our schools. Again, different schools still have different problems. Maybe for one of us need, some of the schools may have a problem, other schools may have, okay, really mandate, such mandate, want to make sure that our school are properly funded, so that at the same time, small cluster, but at the same time, we don't adversely affect the other program in our school that's critical to our students. So that's why I want to make sure that adding additional line with it, just make sure that advocating funding for our school. But like I said, we don't have enough time to discuss additional language that we want to add this resolution, just a line or two, so that all funding is allocated. That's all I want.
Vanessa. Another.
Okay, I don't know what you guys think. I do have a response to that. This is about the particular point that I raised.
Just that,
Vanessa.
so again, the resolution is for the formation of a task force. This resolution that we're voting on, and the bill is about, class size. So what we're voting on is a resolution for a task force that will look into issues such as form review.
Then I will add that 27 on the resolution specifically mentions that the task force is to help guarantee that there is sufficient not only space but funding, staffing to achieve the goals of the bill. So I think that the task force is obviously a comprehensive body that its mission, its goals is to look at all the factors, including your concerns, when it comes to budgetary demands. And I think it is general enough that it will allow the task force to complete its goals.
So that would be our last.
I would like to respond to the language.
So you already make 2 points in 9:20.
If I make one comment, someone respond to my comment, I should be able to.
So what I think is, I think we should go ahead and make the vote because let's motion make it because nice, that's not change. Just a discussion.
Are you motioning?
Yes,
You
let's
motion. Is there a second? Is there a
Is there a
second?
reason
I
why-
second.
is there a
Vanessa
reason why-
second the
Is there a
motion.
reason why Tia can make 2 comments and I'm not allowed to make comments?
Camille Casaretti, how do you vote?
And I was initially responding to Nana's about tabling this. But when this discussion, Tia made 2 comments and I was restricted to 1 comment. And I feel that my voice has been suppressed.
Camille Casaretti, how do you vote?
Nancy, I'm sorry, I want to, I'm having some trouble, like, understanding. So the resolution is. I agree, I would love to see more money. I would love to see more money go towards this class size reduction. I am totally into writing another resolution to ask for more money to implement this plan. So, would that be something that you would want to work on with me?
I'm interested, but my question still remains. Why is my comment being rejected? And Tia were able to make 2 responses.
I would like.
We are voting. We're in the middle of voting. We need to vote. Camille Casaretti, how do you vote?
I approve.
Am I concerned how it's being addressed?
Tia Chalksteed, how do you vote? Vincent Liu, how do you vote?
And no, I feel that my voice has been suppressed.
Nana Poku Agiekum, how do you vote?
I'm gonna abstain. I think personally, I just want to spend some more time.
Alfred DeAngelis, how do you vote? Joseph Alexander, how do you vote?
Yvonne Banda, how do you vote?
Approve.
Nancy Randall, I approve. Vanessa Gonzalez Uyoka, how do you vote?
I approve.
Resolution passes.
Okay, Nana, you abstain?
Yeah, personally, I'm not spent enough time to really make a look at this.
Okay, that's fine. I'm just asking. You want to work on the resolution?
Yeah, so now we can discuss what the next steps is in order to make so come up with the next steps.
I look forward, but I'm still looking forward to address my concern.
Yeah, I think that we have made a number of missteps in this meeting with letting people speak longer than what we had agreed. And we need to not do that. Like, we all need to abide by the rules that we set forth. We need to limit our own comments. If we want to have conversations, we can do that, but we need to plan for it. So if we're not planning for it in advance on the agenda, we're just only going to have 2 minutes and we need to be concise. And we can't do the back and forth if we don't have a plan to do that. So, Vincent, I'm sorry. Yeah, I'm sorry to you all. I'm responsible for the way this meeting is being run, just like our parliamentarian and everyone else. And let's try to promise each other and our guests that we are not going to run till 9:30 in the future, that we are going to start on time. We've had some technical issues today. Hopefully those can be avoided in the future. But it would be great if everybody, our council, can be here at 6 o'clock so that we can start on time. But let's make a promise to each other that we're going to be more respectful of how our comments are being made in terms of just keeping and we can stay on schedule.
I just want to one comment is that if you have questions, comments, try not to send it the same day of the meeting. We need that, I mean, at least 48 hours, let's say, to have an email with all the things that you desire or the things that you want, so we can all read it and come over here prepared to maybe have that discussion. Thank you.
I have no problem limiting the comments. I have no problem limiting the comments of anyone as long as we said at the beginning. But what happened just now is everyone made one comment and Tia responded to my comment, which is her second comment. When I try to respond, my comment being restricted. And just like what happened before, when I'm trying to make comments, someone make a motion, force it through. That's not respect. I just want to make it clear. I'm not looking for anyone to apologize, but I just want to make sure that this is not something that can happen next time. Because no one sees this, and no one sees this clear like this. Thank you.
No, have fun.
So I just want to make a quick comment. And just to follow Ivan's comment, I think these resolutions, honestly, we have it way ahead of time to review it and go back and forth. So I think it's for instance, I saw a comment coming last night, I didn't have a chance to read it, right? Like Ivan said, if the comments can come into our report time, so we can all read it and incorporate it into our decisions, that would be great. So it wouldn't seem like we're not overcoming someone's comment or we're not taking into account someone's comment, because I was literally coming in when I saw this comment and I haven't had a chance to process it. And I would very much like to be able to involve everybody's thought process, including mine, before the day of the meeting. I really appreciate it.
Can I close the meeting?
Oh, there was just one more thing, and I'm so sorry. It's just because, is Laura Barbieri still on the call? So Laura, this is just an old business item. So at the last meeting, we discussed the situation with the administrative assistant unionizing. And Laura is the lawyer representing CECs in the suit. And she is here and can give an update if you're interested. If you're not interested, we have to leave in 3 minutes. Laura, are you there? Can you unmute? She's the lawyer representing the CECs. Not ours, not ours.
Laura, I'm gonna put you on so you can speak.
Okay, do you want me to talk or do you want me to come back, Camille? Because it's okay, you know, given the time, if you need me to come back, it's perfectly okay. Okay.
Bye, good night.
Thank you.